Hello, and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where we read about some Dungeons and Dragons and discuss how we might include it in our role-playing campaigns. Yes, a weird middle of the week, or probably Sunday when this is coming out, extra episode. With me, as always, is Hamilton, my co-host. I'm not just here by myself. Sorry, we're a bit giddy this morning. Yeah. Hamilton, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. We've had such an exciting week in D&D, and so we've had, not only have we just talked and waxed lyrical about Spelljammer and how much I have fallen in love with that, we've then also had this Wizards Direct, or Wizards Presents, sorry it's called, isn't it? It says
it's Wizards Presents, as we discussed afterwards. Yes, it's sort of basically described itself as what's happening for both Magic the Gathering and D&D over the next few years, which I think is now going to be a regular thing. Every couple of months we're going to have this sort of showcase of announcements, which is great. And if you're I will say, if you're a Magic the Gathering fan, you've got lots of stuff to look forward to. I have no idea what any of it means, but I'm happy for you. I really am. I just saw that there was like Lord of the Rings and Doctor Who, and I was like, oh, those are two things that I quite like. Will I get into the card game? No.
Because I came to it late, so I was doing the catch-up on YouTube Premiere, so I could like fast forward to like the 10-second I'd catch, and they went, Warhammer 40k. I was like, oh, no, click, we're going to have a thing. No, I'm not interested. I'm like, I'm sorry. Hey, wait, but Fiona, you're Magic the Gathering up now, aren't you?
I'm slowly collecting commander decks left, right, and centre. I will play one day. My partner is going to all the commander nights and everything like that, so I hear all about it. Yeah, I'm sure it's great. The bits I get through, I think once I get to play, I think I'll either understand it or come back going, no idea. But they like me, so I'll go with that. I just assume that they'll like me because I'm just like full on improv and like, okay, tapped that land.
I don't know what that means. You said something, I don't know words.
It was a magic thing.
Magic.
I drew
You gathered some magic.
I gathered magic.
Hey, I gathered the magic.
This is not a Magic the Gathering reaction podcast. This is a D&D reaction podcast. Well, Hamilton.
Yeah.
The big announcement, the huge big announcement is that, well, something we already knew what was just going to happen because it got announced like 2 years ago.
You better say what I'm hoping it's going to be.
I don't know.
You're going to say the biggest announcement is the word. I know what you're going to say the biggest announcement is.
One D&D. Which is, it's the code name. Basically, they've just decided, they've basically got this announcement where they're going to revise and make sure all the sort of things they've been working on over the last couple of years, Wizards are going to put in and just have D&D without the addition, essentially.
As I said to you offline, I said I knew exactly what Chris Perkins was going to say, which was when he was about to say a sentence like, we've been talking about D&D thinking about D&D as additions. We're going to think about D&D as just D&D. And I was like, I knew you were going to say that. So I was like, I know you're going to say, we're just going to think of D&D. Because obviously they are going to think D&D, because why would you change it? They're not like Warhammer 40k and Games Workshop, where they've got unfortunate fans like myself who will spend ridiculous amounts of money every 2 years because they'll change the edition, and we are sadists and no, it was the other one, masochists, and so we want the pain and we want to waste. We're already spending £200 billion on tanks that will be happy to buy more books. But unlike Wizards, who are much kinder, have decided no, we're just gonna edit rather than make a new whole edition.
Yeah, they talked about it whenever it was. It feels like a lifetime ago. I think it was just like the future of D&D, which I think was one of our first episodes we did together in season 3. Again, it's confirming stuff that we knew before, like everything's going to be backwards compatible in terms of the 5th edition stuff, so you don't have to be like, all those nice alt covers that I've just bought.
That would be so annoying.
They're not going to be completely useless, is what I'm going to say. But obviously with the acquisitions of D&D Beyond, we're now going to see going forward,
I think, physical and digital at the same time, which everyone has been hoping for so bloody long, because I want to buy the physical, but everyone wants the digital. So
yes,
this is it. Yeah.
It's a great thing. I will say at time of recording, and this makes sense, is that you can't get it from your local GameStop. So, for example, the Dragonlance booklet's coming out. But the thing to note is that you can only get the physical digital bundle through D&D themselves. They've got their own web store and stuff like that. You can't get it with local game stores.
They're going to hopefully fix that, I'm sure.
They talked about it as like a testing phase. I want to see if it's like works, like how do they distribute it,
Well, there are a couple of companies that do that. Like, where did I buy one of the Morkborg supplements? I bought Phyrextory. It will come to me. But when I bought it, they gave me access to the drive-through RPG PDF.
Yes.
So I'm sure your FLGSs will get there.
Yeah, I hope so as well, because otherwise it feels a bit of a kick in the teeth for them if you support them, but then people want digital physical bundles. But like I was saying, they're going to trial it out for this, and then I'm thinking it's going to spread around. The other thing to note as well, it sounds like with the digital and physical bundles, is that you will probably get access to the digital stuff maybe 2 weeks before the physical stuff is released. I just assume that's going to happen now, considering our delays we've had with Radiant Citadel and Spelljammer now with the physical copies.
Then the third and final thing, then, obviously, Fiona is again, we're going to just be picking ourselves up all week, aren't we?
This is called Smugcast.
It's called Smugcast. We should just name it. D&D, the Smugcast. Wizard presents Hamilton and Fiona are right.
DM Smoker Club.
It's only because it was probably more obvious and actually on the zeitgeist, really. So I think that we're getting a VTT. And a good one at that.
Yes, I'm excited. Yes, so they're using Unreal Engine. They sort of when they were describing it and showing like little pictures of it, they were like, we want to do it design it like this with some sort of, and I'm going to get the software wrong now, but some sort of like tilt camera effect. So it looks like
tilt shift. You use it in rendering. It's when you see those pictures, when people use those cameras and they take aerial shots and they put them on, it makes the world look like models. That's a tilt shift camera. I've used it a couple of times when I've done renderings in architecture I do a building and then we want to make it look like it's a model on a table. Right. We'll use a tilt shift camera that will make it look like it's tiny, because it's basically, here's a technical term, I think it's a 10-degree field of view. If you wanted to know.
I'm so glad I got you for this podcast, by the way, because I would have just sat there going, I don't know, and then you're like, well, actually.
You also can use it like alternately to get, like, when you see pictures of buildings and they look like when you get perspective and you get rid of this perspective, that's like an inversion of that as well. But yeah, there you go, there's a little bit.
That's cool, because they want to make it feel like it's a minis game rather than like a video game. And I'm like, you know what? Fair play.
It's very Tailspire.
Yes. Well, there was, again, from the discourse that I was sort of seeing, I think Wizards tried to purchase or acquire Tailspire at one point. I don't think that's worked out. So hence this sort of VTT thing. Hey, we talked about, a VTT thing makes sense for this to be integrated stuff.
Well, just having it in there, just being able to buy, like when you buy your book, even if it requires, I hope it doesn't, but even if it required an extra, like 15% on the cost of the books to buy the VTT module version or something like that, I would be happy with that sort of thing or something. I don't think much more than 20% I think would be too much.
We were discussing again off podcast, how would it work? Would one person buy the tabletop version and then the other players in your campaign can access it like it does currently with the DM's content campaign, or do they need to have an extra thing to support it?
I'll bet there'll be like the DM can buy the thing like they do with D&D Beyond with the sharing of content. You'll be limited sharing, like you can only share it with one party at a time, maybe less than the 5 parties you can share content with at the moment.
Yep.
And I bet character models will cost you monies. So if you want you can either have the basic Ranger, Paladin, all those sorts of models and the basic whatever other things they want to put in. But I think if you want to customize or have special armor or something like that, you're going to have to pay. Or at least a subscription.
Oh yeah, like so that every couple of months they have like a subscribers pack and you get these free models.
Like Dice, like they do with Dice.
I wonder if stuff like maybe third parties like Hero Forge, where you create your customizable thing. Currently, you can download the file for it so you can do your own home printing. I wonder if you get a digital file just to be able to upload it to this. Again, this sounds like a lot of work, right? And I'm not a tabletop. They didn't hire me. It'll be interesting to see if they can do it. And I you know what, if it's for you, if you want to try that sort of thing out, I really hope that is something that people really want. Because for me, I don't mind the 2D top-down maps, but I'm very boring. I quite like Theatre of the Mind. I just easier for me, especially online as well.
Yeah. Someone who streams games, though, I'm always like, I feel like sometimes I probably should have a map. When I'm playing more combat-heavy games like D&D, and I think, I should do it more. But then I'm just not, it's not the way I play, and it's not really the way I play in person very much.
You know what, that's a really good point, right? So because obviously some streams do have this sort of Roll20s type thing. Or
like JR, who does Roll of Cool, he uses Tailspire. But he tells me, like, you go on Tailspire and they've got thousands of people that have made these amazing models. And he goes, and pretty much most of the campaigns that you want and love like Curse of Strahd's pretty much will be made.
That's a good point. Will we suddenly get a modding community, like just similar to how, like, say, The Sims has a huge modding community where you can download, because obviously we've got that with D&D Beyond. You have homebrew spells and classes and stuff like that. That could be really interesting, actually. I hadn't considered that.
And JR's tip for you is go on there, find the map, and make it work to your game. Make the game work to the map. But there's so many on there. It's like you can literally find anything. So I think, totally. I think a modding community will totally be brought out. Like with D&D, we're basically modders and homebrewers. So you know.
The other part of One D&D, they're also updating and going to release Unearthed Arcana monthly about the 3 big books, the Player's Handbook, the DM's Guide, and the Monster Manual over the next 2 years before finally releasing the finalized version, the revised version that we'll be using for the rest of things. And they're asking for us plebs, like they do with every Unearthed Arcana, to go and play it and stuff like that. And the first stuff is out now. So if you have a D&D Beyond account now, sign in, claim it, because it's open now. You can get it down. The first one is Character Origins, which we'll come to in another episode, and then give back your survey and stuff. And that's, again, we've known this has happened. You know, they do UA and stuff like that. But this first one, certainly, it's 21 pages long. It's big.
Yeah, it is big.
This is it. I feel like there's a big change now. We've done the little bits of UA, which are like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, there's a new book coming out, etc. This is like, no, we know what this is for. So it's, very... I'm keen. I don't know if I mean, we've said this before. I don't really play test that stuff. I like reading it through and criticizing it or critiquing it, with you, and then leaving it and then being shocked and aghast when certain features aren't in the main book at the end.
I think I did one survey and I can't remember when it was. I definitely have gone through one. Actually, I think I got halfway through it and then gave up.
Fair enough.
That's all great. That's all fine. That's all good.
Yes.
All very interesting.
Yes.
Honestly, though, it's not what was the biggest news for me.
No? Oh.
It wasn't the biggest news for me. Because I'm like, it's new D&D. Okay, it's the same D. It's new. It's the Who. There's the new boss, same as the old boss. Right? But, well, who gives a crap about that? I don't give a crap about the rules anyway. You'll know that. If you've ever watched my streams, I don't care. Wow. You can change the rules on inspiration. I'm still going to do what I want
Hamilton,
to do.
This is your final episode.
You can still have bonus action health potions in my world. Don't you worry. And then they talked about some other things, and then they got right to the end and they mentioned it for 5 seconds. My biggest news, and I'm skipping, I know I'm not going in order, Planescape is coming out.
Planescape. We, again, tick, 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 we saw this happening. We saw this like 8 months ago. I don't know how.
We've been saying it for such a long time that I was hoping it was what they were going to say when it was Spelljammer. I was hoping it was going to say when they said it was Dragonlance, and I was like, oh, bugger. And I'm happy for Spelljammer, don't get me wrong. But Planescape makes me happy in all sorts of ways because it's my nostalgia drive, but it's also just it could be doing with coming out in a few weeks' time, because in a few weeks' time we might have a whole 16-episode show based around all the planes of existence. You're getting excited about Planescape and you want to hear all about every single plane. Me and Fiona will do deep dives on that starting in September. But I'm excited. I want more. I hope I want more stories in that world, but I hope that they don't do what they've done with Spelljammer, which I'm sure they will do. I think they're going to make a 3-part document where it's going to have a campaign guide and a campaign setting book. It will have a monster manual and it will have an adventure.
So I don't know if it will be a box set. I think it's going to be a campaign thing, because are there any other monsters we can put in space in Planescape?
It's a very good point. I mean, we do have pretty much all of them are in the monster manual. You've got your Yugolos, you've got all your demons and devils, you've got Modrons.
We just had a huge Spelljammer that's come out with obviously a lot of Astral Sea stuff. I think there may be a couple, but I don't think there'll be a whole book dedicated to it.
You might be right. Okay, how about this? Okay, all right. Yep. I'm going to take your offer.
Okay, take
it. I'm going to counter.
So you're going to raise me? That's
going to raise you.
I've never played poker.
That's all right. You know, I have for a long time. I'm shit.
I was going to say, did you win?
No, I normally got way too drunk when playing it. That's my problem. I did really well. My raise is that then, how about this? Campaign guide, which is focusing like Sigil and the Outlands, then a Planar Wanderer's Handbook, Planescape, like Planewalker's Handbook. Maybe a compendium of 16 mini adventures, campaign starters in each of the planes. How about that?
I agree. I think maybe like an initial primer about Sigil and the Outlands, like you said. I'm all for having, because obviously in the Planescape books, as you showed me, there's like a quick primer for each of the planes, and with adventure hooks or adventure little short scenarios. I think that would be really good.
And I think also that, because Sigil requires just as much as any of those books, because on top of that, you've got the faction-based information. So you need to explain all that philosophical-based thing that Planescape has. It's not like Spelljammer, where there is the Rockabral and there is the Spelljammer itself, but they're not as significant in the campaign as Sigil is, because it is such an individual place.
Yes.
As much as it probably is in Radiant Citadel.
Mm-hmm.
And the characters and the way that the politics and stuff like that is such a... Like, we talked about Ravnica recently, and we've talked about Planescape factions before when I first came onto your show. It's the first thing I did. And like political intrigue is like the political balance is not really the same as Ravnica, but it is in a similar vein, that the factions and their relationship to each other and how they work and how they influence your character is just as important as all the planes that are around you.
My question to you then, because obviously, as I can tell, you're incredibly passionate about this. No. I really love this. Are you not worried in case it's not exactly what you hope? Yeah, okay.
But I don't really mind, because like all these things, there's already Planescape out there. Listen to our show that we're going to do about it, and you can learn how, like, and the 2E stuff. And as we've done reading it, I think it is some of the most forward-thinking and most positive sort of 2E setting that there is out there. I think from a lot of the things that we've been wanting from D&D that it had before we've been asking for it has come out in Planescape. And I think it's a very interesting setting. And I think if you want to go back to it, unlike other campaigns where I'd be concerned about saying go back to 2E, Planescape, I'd be like, go back to it. I think as a general whole, I think it still holds up. It just requires when I started doing the Spelljammer, I didn't even think I needed the new Spelljammer. Apart from I want prettier pictures. And it's nice to have it 5E-ified for the ease of having to not figure out Thaco and, but to be honest, do I need Planescape to be updated? Not really. It doesn't need to be. It's all there. But the only reason is I'm an anti-gatekeeper. Yeah. I want it out there because I want people to be excited by Planescape as much as I am, so that we can play more Planescape. So that's really like Spelljammer. I'm so happy it's out because like everyone's talking about Spelljammer, so I can be enjoying Spelljammer with everyone. And that's kind of why I'm the same with Planescape. So that's why I'm excited by it. There's also some other great stuff coming out, though, isn't there?
So Planescape is right at the end, fall 2023, which feels like ages away, but knowing us, we'll turn around and I'll be like, oh my God, there's 4 of the books already out that we need to do. The other 4 things that are coming out before Planescape, which is a lot, by the way.
And they're amazing.
They're amazing. So first off, end of this year, we have Dragonlance, which we'll come to because I feel like we deserve to give it something.
Yeah, we'll need to give that some time, yeah.
The next thing, which I am very excited about, I know you're excited about it, and I'm sure our friend of the show, Matt Whitby, is also excited about, is we've got another anthology coming out about heists, keys from the Golden Vault.
Who doesn't love a heist? One of the favourite Critical Role episodes was EXU when they did the heist. I mean, amazing. And I love, how much I love Dragon Heist. So, yeah, more please.
Because I wouldn't class myself as someone who watches like heist films, but as soon as I'm playing them in like a game or an RPG or something like that, I'm instantly in and going, always moving past.
What's the Rick and Morty saying? Ah, you bastard, I'm in. You know that one? Oh, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch, I'm in. That's it. That's what I want to do that and just have that the whole way through the show.
So the description says, grab your thieves' tools and your favourite dark cloak because each of these adventures in this book has a nail-biting heist at the centre of it.
All rogue party, come on.
It does sound like it. That's all we know about it. Obviously, it's an anthology, so presumably it's going to be different writers. Yeah. I'm hoping, I'm willing it out into the world that it might be a little bit higher level.
I totally agree. I mean, if it's an anthology and let's say 12, happy with 3 low level, 6 medium level, 3 high tier would be perfect. 100%. It works so well because heist is something you can, as an anthology, it's like, this is what anthology should be, right? Is that they should be things which you can just chuck into your campaign here, there, and everywhere. And a heist, what a heist in their campaign.
I hope that they have maybe a page or 2 about creating like what goes into a heist story. I don't think that has to be very long because I think there's only so much you can do, but like what's the framework of it? There's always like the plan and then maybe a montage and maybe a mechanic for montaging stuff. Like so Blades in the Dark did that thing where they're like, I brought the right tool for the job, and then you have a flashbacks.
Like Honey Heist. Grant Howat, come on, get him involved. Come on.
I think he's got his own RPG called Die coming out, which is all based on D&D and stuff. So I think he's fine, actually.
No, I just think he did. I love, or just take inspiration, people, from that because it's great.
If you want to know more about heists, if you want a really quick and easy one, Honey Heist, absolutely agree on that. The next book, though, so you know how you're excited about Planescape?
Yeah, I know.
I'm very excited about this one. So we've got Bigby presents The Glory of the Giants, which sounds like the definitive guide to giant gameplay in D&D. We're getting a source book about giants that's similar to Fizzbands.
I think that's going to be really good. I'm hoping it's going to have like a bit more of that primal setting as well. I'm thinking they've even brought primal into the spell sets, haven't they? But I think I'm hoping it's going to come. Glory of the Giants, I think, will have a bit more like Fizzbands did, a lot more of the build your own storyline, something that's about adapting to it, maybe things you can gain.
Giants. Yeah, I'm such a big fan of the giants and the lore and stuff like that. So maybe we'll have some new giants and new giant types and elementals perhaps, or something like. I don't know. That's all we've got is that one line of definitive guide for giant play. But Bigby as well. It's a character we've not really focused on in 5th edition that much, other than like Bigby's hand, like the spell. Yeah. So that'll be interesting as well to have that as well. This sort of, from what I remembered, like the apprentice or a friend of Mordekainen who's also a wizard as well. So. Yeah. So that was spring. Summer, we have two things. We have, firstly, I think a surprise one is the Phandelver campaign. The classic Lost Mine of Phandelver adventure being expanded into a full campaign setting. If you weren't with us from the beginning of 5th edition, there was the starter set which had this adventure in it, which was to get people into it, and it's very, very simple. You know, your first encounter is that you go down a road, there's goblins, and you build it up from there until you get to the end of it. And I think at some point we should have a look at that particular adventure, because obviously that starter set is now being phased out a little bit. We've got D&D Essentials. There's a new starter set out that is in America in Target. It's not on D&D Beyond yet, but it's all to do with
there's also Adventure Begins, which is a mixture of a very Gloomhaven-esque interpretation of D&D, which you can play. There's a few different things, to be honest.
Did you ever read or play Lost Mine of Phandelver out of interest, Hamilton?
I listened to a campaign by my friend Luke, who did that for his show Dice and Die, and I mean, it's not a very definitive. It was a very jokey, and it was their first go at D&D from Pathfinder originally, and it was kind of interesting enough. A campaign setting. I thought they were funny. I mean, as in they were funny, but the actual setting itself. It's interesting. It's a nice sort of introduction to classic hero story of saving a town and finding, and
bit of political stuff. As I played through it. That was my first D&D experience, was playing through it. I just remember dying at the end. That's all I remember from it. The cave came in on top of us for some reason. I can't exactly remember the details, but it was quite sad because I was like, so when are we playing again next? The book shuts.
Oh my gosh.
So I guess a lot of people who came to 5th edition will have played through this initial starting adventure. So to see it fleshed out into a full campaign, I mean, I guess. I mean, maybe it's just a bit more about the world around Phandelver, or Phandalin even, sorry, because I know that's the area.
Doesn't it relate, though, into Storm King's Thunder somewhat? Don't they return to it somehow? I'm sure it did.
I could not tell you off the top. You know what? I need to read all of these books. I've got so much to read.
Again, I'm only halfway through a playthrough of that as well, listening to an actual play of it, but I thought there was a link, but maybe I'm wrong.
The second thing that's coming out in the summer, though, which is another I think we're both excited for this. We have done, I will say, UA of this. It is yet to come out because we've got a bit of a backlog, but it'll be out soon. The Book of Many Things. This book takes the deck of many things and uses it to explore new player and DM options. And we, in the UA, we had some spells that sort of came out.
Yeah, the card trick was quite Cartomancer was the thing, which I really like that. And there was the one where you could throw cards at people, and I'm like, who wants to be Gambit? Everyone. So we're up for that.
Yeah, there's the one where you can raise like a house of cards, and it sounds really cool. The
house of cards one, it was really shit because it's only take 2 damage, then it's like falls apart.
It's down. I find it's interesting because it took so it's like new player and DM options. I mean, there's only so much they could do because there's not that many cards.
I had a thought of it the other day, and I've had another one since. But the first one was: is it I thought it might have been like an anthology of 16 little adventures, or whatever it is, adventures based around, or something, at least a theme, a chapter based around each of the cards that plays around that. The other one I thought was, what if it's more games for D&D, like card games for D&D, like Gwent, or like not Gwent, but like things to like games to play within D&D.
Indeed, yes, exactly. So like something to add on and play with your players and stuff, because they have. I'm just going to reach for it off camera. Recently got myself the Dungeons and Dragons tarot set. Which has some really, I'll show you the one that I got out because I was using it today. It's a very beautiful like artwork and stuff. And what it says in the book, as well as like using it for tarot readings and stuff, you can use it to create encounters. So you draw free and you're like, here is the mission, here is the enemy, here is whatever. And depending on where you put it, you can create different encounters and stuff. And it's just, look at the backs of these. They're beautiful. Aren't they great? I love props. We've talked about it before, that we've got the card deck from Curse of Strahd and stuff like that. So if they're going to do another, like maybe official deck of many things, because there's so many people who've created deck of many things cards. Yeah, no,
it's a really big industry. Well, I don't know.
It's the most recognizable thing. Like obviously, we've done a whole episode on. I'm going to put this down.
On it, and we made some of our own cards, didn't we?
We did, yes.
But I think I'm kind of excited by that. I think that'd be interesting, and if it is a bit more like on the sort of darker horror side of things, maybe that's interesting enough. I guess we haven't had a lot of it for a while. It's been a long time since for Fiona to feel comfortable in D&D.
I was going to say, it's like every day is Halloween for me.
Yeah, exactly. But since Ravenloft, the guide to Ravenloft, we haven't really had anything.
We've had the Domains of Dread, which I've been reading through again recently for inspiration.
Really, just reading them for nighttime reading.
How do you get to sleep? So yes, those are the 5 big new announcements that we've had. So it's going to be an exciting year with Planescape sort of ending it for us, but then we've got this heist stuff, and then we've got some bits in the middle.
I'm excited for the heist stuff. I'm looking forward to that. I'm so going to be running a lot of those because I'm looking forward to that a load.
I was like, at least we've got some time before the next one to read, because I've just read Planescape, so I was like, phew, now we can get back to our normal routine. And then we've got the UA stuff, and I was like, okay, that's fine. That's only every other month. And then, as I said to you off podcast, to be honest,
I think they're just thinking, you know what, that Hamilton and Fiona, they need content.
They need so much. We clearly came into the market at the right point, didn't we? Then they sort of revealed more about Dragonlance, and I said to you, it's coming out this year and not next year. And I think we've said this whole time it's coming out next year. And I went back through like the D&D Direct footage and stuff like that.
It's definitely this year.
It's definitely this year. So in November, we have Dragonlance, The Shadow of the Dragon Queen.
December 5th, sorry. Pre-order now, available December 6th.
So it's December 6th, but the digital will be out 2 weeks earlier because of the digital physical bundle books.
But you can buy the deluxe edition bundle, which comes with the online and
DM screen and the board games. And the little VT about it in the Wizards Presents, I actually was quite interested by it. It's a warfare setting, and I don't think we've really had that before, this idea of like armies and stuff like that.
As I said, the closest before I said was the Critical Role.
Explorer's Guide to Wildemount.
Exactly, but that's very much a campaign setting, not an actual adventure.
Yeah, and it usually says like, the war is there as a tension thing is in the background, whereas it says like this is a thin sliver in the overarching epic that is Dragonlance and all that sort of thing. And I was like, actually, that's interesting.
Exactly. And the teaser trailer had Shora Agdashlo, which is the amazing person from The Expanse, who anything that she is involved in, I'm probably going to be more excited about. Because as I said to you, Fiona, off camera, I sort of am now interested in getting a lance and lancing some dragons. What in the shadow? I don't know why.
Look at that pivot.
But it's and I'm telling you what, it's really got more, like 95% to do with the alt cover. The alt cover is so beautiful,
and it's clearly the big bad. Again, I will say this: neither of us know anything about it. I literally just started reading it today, and I'm sure I'll be like an expert by the time it comes out. But yes, the alt cover. It's so much better than the normal one.
Yeah, it is, and it makes me think of like the Wild Hunt, and then I'm like, and it's got like a minis game that could be cool, and it's got dragons, And I'm famous for liking dragons, so why wouldn't I like it? And it's just because I think what's happened is I've been so like, it just feels a bit icky, the old setting, I guess, to me in some ways. It just feels a bit like old fashioned, but this just looks like it's a hot live thing where it's rewriting it, we're making this new thing, and it's got this quite dark, brooding sort of setting. I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. It's got really cool artwork. Oh, it's got people riding dragons. Okay, probably I'm on board. Now I'm like, yeah, probably I'm going to really enjoy it somehow. I didn't expect it. That's what I mean.
No, well, me neither. And so this adventure book, as you sort of pointed out, it is supplemented by Dragonlance Warriors of Krynn board game, which has been made in collaboration with renowned board game designers Stephen Baker and
Rob Davio. Rob Davio is famous. Rob, I used to be a bit into my board game podcasts. Rob Davio has made like 1 billion board games. I can't even 127 board games.
Oh.
Yeah. Pandemic is his most famous. Betrayal at the House of the Hill. He made a lot of Clue variations. He did Cthulhu, Death May Die, Conspiracy, Downforce, really great Formula 1 game.
Lots of games that people have heard about and lots of games that are definitely are popular. So that gives me a bit of hope.
Yeah, no, literally a very prolific board game designer.
So I was talking to my partner about this because for us, the draw isn't necessarily board games. It does say you don't need the board game to play the game, which is fine. Few, I think, we're all relieved about that. But I was talking to my partner about it and he said, obviously, that we have D&D board games, but maybe like this is like, we want to make a proper impact with this because they maybe haven't as been as successful. Like I was thinking to myself as well, like if I invited you over and I said, oh, we're going to play D&D or we could play this D&D board game, which would you most likely prefer? And I think your answer would be D&D.
Yeah, it would be. And I'm looking at have you seen the back of the box?
No, I haven't, no.
So the back of the box is quite interesting because in my mind, I was actually thinking it was going to be more like a miniatures war game, a bit like, so D&D Onslaught, I completely didn't even know that existed. How did I, like, until JR mentioned it, I was like, what? When did this come out? Like, because that is, anyone's a Warhammer fan, it sounds very much like Kill Team, which is like a skirmishes game, 1v1, really great game. If you like want to get into the Warhammer and don't want to spend billions, but it's a really great, like, fun, fast-paced game, and they've worked on it quite a lot. This isn't that.
No,
it's actually like tokens, and there's like, it looks a bit like I don't know how it looks like. There's color, like 2 sets of colors, like a red and blue things, and they're obviously fighting against each other, and I guess it's like taking over territories. But you can read the back of the box, and the back of the box says this: Warriors of Krynn is a cooperative game of adventure and strategy where you play heroes battling against the terrifying dragon army. As conflict rages around you, maneuver between battlefields and adventure locations to tip the scales of war. So it seems to have 3 areas you can play in on this setup they've got at the moment. Face sinister dragon army commanders and their forces in battles ranging from skirmishes to epic sieges. Explore the surrounding lands to find treasure, allies, and other advantages. Shape the story of the war through 12 connected campaign scenarios and forge a legend of your own. This standalone board game contains rules for integrating characters from Dungeons & Dragons campaign adventure, Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen, sold separately. So it sounds a bit like a very, like a Risk Legacy or a very small Gloomhaven, maybe with a little bit of, what's that, Mage Quest? Maybe with a bit of like the sort of Mage Quest, you can go around, pick up treasures, go on little adventures, and then do the main campaign stuff.
Cool.
It looks, I mean, if I had a home game, and I was going to say, let's go and do this Dragonlance thing. We're all interested in it.
Who's here up for dragons? Me?
Yeah.
And also me.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if you're thinking, we're going to do how long's your campaign been? Your massive
4 years.
4 years. So yeah, let's say on average it's going to be a 2 year. Like you could be doing this for a year, 2 years or something like that. You know, you could have 12 connected campaign scenarios. I'd say, every 4 sessions or every 6 sessions having hey, let's play a different board game might be good.
It'll be interesting to find out because I guess for me, as long as you didn't have you didn't have to have the board game to play the game, just because again it's a physical game, so presumably you have to be there in person rather than a digital version.
Well, they might make they make digital versions of everything these days. So.
Well, that's what it's not really announced that, but I would like that a lot. That would be really
Someone
really good.
will put it on tabletop
simulator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Final thing I just want to mention off the top, again, it's something we've not really covered on this podcast, but it is something of note. Drizzt is turning 35 this year. Holy shit. To sort of celebrate this, they're having new covers for each of the 39 books, which is a lot of books. But they've also got a forthcoming visual novel, The Legend of Drizzt, which will take readers on a voyage across Forgotten Realms with stunning new artwork depicting the iconic drow and the companions of the Hall.
Thanks for spoiling that he gets with Catty Bree. I hadn't got that far in the books yet.
Oh no! See, I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance, where you play as Drizzt and Catty Bree, and obviously, and me and my partner did not realise that they were a couple until they talked about it in the game.
No, because in the first set of books, her and Wolfgar are the intended sort of love. Yeah, and so for me, I'm like, what happens to Wolfgar? Like, Catty Bree and Wolfgar, but both previously were romantically involved towards the end of the Icewind Dale trilogy, which is where I've got to, which are the first 6 books, and I've only just started book 7. And then suddenly, Drizzt and Catty Bree had a child, and I'm like, well, thanks for spoiling that love triangle. Like,
I think Hamilton, it's been 35 years.
I know what's depressing is it's 35 years old next year, because I'm 35 this year and I'm 87, so it was 88 when it came out, right?
And just to find out, they are launching, thanks to you mentioning there, launching a family web cartoon which follows Drizzt's young daughter Bree as she seeks to prove her worth as a hero. Written by Pert Parr, known for Suitor Armor, with guidance from the author as well, which is lovely, and I think that's quite cool, because this means like we're taking this legacy on with Drizzt, and hopefully it means that we can inspire other readers who maybe like that's not the book for me, but maybe younger readers and stuff like that. And family friendly is always good. If
you're interested in like a whistle stop tour of a lot of the most famous little like places outside of, they only go to Waterdeep for 5 seconds, but outside of Waterdeep, like they go to Silvery Town, and they go all over the shop. There's lots of obviously in the 10 towns, but there's also a bit of interest in the Wizard Host Tower and Luskan and stuff. So there's a lot of interest. If you like want to learn a bit, it's a nice way to just get yourself into the world of the Forgotten Realms.
I think that's my hope for the future. Is I hope the one D&D, we just get to that point where it's like, okay, we're going to slow down a little bit and have 2 big releases a year, which isn't just tons and tons of books or smaller supplements.
Exactly.
Like the Monsters Compendium, because we've not had another volume of that come out with the Spelljammer stuff, so maybe some ship stuff.
Well, I also would like, as I said to you, again, off podcast about like Spelljammer, I kind of miss the old D&D way of it being like, okay, so now there's Spelljammer, now there's Planescape, and I'm not saying you don't, that the world has to, that you have to like go down these routes either, because like I think there's no reason why your campaign can't jump into Planescape and then jump into Spelljammer. But what I do love is that they started to treat them like, okay, Spelljammer would have a couple of releases this year, or at least one release this year, and Planescape would have one release this year, and normal D&D, Forgotten Realms would have a release this year, and they would have a few releases based on the different sort of types of games they're playing. Because I think technically, because I'm sitting here with Spelljammer, as I said, I do say in our other talk, which I talk about in our next episode.
No spoilers.
Not too many spoilers, no, but as in like, it'd be really lovely to have like lots of little adventures be coming out in the next couple of years. And when it does the Planescape one, it'd be great to then have, like we've talked about in our Planescape thing, here's a really in-depth guide to the Abyss. That's only got to be, I know they're going to lean on the DMs Guild and the content creators out there, and that's great. And I think that's what's amazing about the world we live in now, because we have that. In the 90s, we didn't have that because there was no internet. So that's sort of, again, maybe why it's not as necessary, but it's just interesting.
Yes, indeed. Well, Hamilton, thank you for taking the time on a Friday
it's all right.
to chat to
me
about...
Don't tell them how loserish we are that we've got nothing better to do on a Friday night.
When you're not playing D&D or reading about it or shying away from the amount of reading we have to do, what other projects have you got in the works? What's coming up for you?
I have a non-D&D related one. Theatre Macabre, our Mork Borg actual play, will be starting September the 11th, 8 p.m. It will be live on Twitch. First episode. It is, as I'm super happy with the work that everyone involved in that has just done a super fantastic job. And then I turned up somehow, and I was very fortunate to be in the realm of these amazing people.
And I was there.
And I was there somehow, but I've got some amazing players in it. Taylor from Backwater Bastard, Stuart from Dice Desire, Chloe and Will from the other stuff I've done, Dragon's Duel, and their own stuff. But we're playing Mork Borg. It's all in character. It's 1 hour. They're only 1 hour episodes. It's all like we play in character. We're characters playing characters. So it's all very trying to be. It's an actual play, but trying to be more like a narrative story. And I think we have a lot of fun. And it's very Mork Borg. It's very dark, obviously, and the editors have just done a great job.
A great job
making. I'm really excited to show it off, and so please, it will be on the T4C, the Dragon T4C Twitch channel. One day later, it will be out on YouTube. But what about you, Fiona? Enough about me. What about you?
Me? Well, who am I?
Who are you? Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm so like nerved out by talking about my Mork Borg thing. I'm like completely
I just had to self-monologue.
Just talk now. You have to talk now, Fiona.
Line.
Line. So who, Fiona? What, Fiona? Where, Fiona? Why on earth, Fiona?
Brilliant. I will answer those questions. Who am I? My name is Fiona. What am I? I'm a podcaster. Why am I? Well, that's a really big question, but I don't have time to answer. Where am I? I'm so glad you asked. Where? What Am I Rolling is a twice monthly RPG one-shot podcast. As always, it's going very well. If you're done listening to Dungeons and Dragons, you're like, there's too many books. I just want to play any other system or anything like that. Come check out What Am I Rolling? We've got all these different systems. We've got systems from Free League. We've got one-page one-shots. We've got solo RPGs. And basically the aim is just to try us out as many different systems and tell as many different stories as possible. We recently had some interviews from Free League on there as well. There's so much editing that I'm in the middle of. I can't even tell you what's coming out because there's so much of it. But it's very exciting and I really, really enjoy it. So do come and listen to that. So that's What Am I Rolling, which you can find wherever you listen to podcasts. And finally, also, we have an offer code. So if all this talk about RPGs and D&D and all that has whetted your appetite and you're excited for Dragonlance, because I'm sure they're doing pre-orders somewhere with this alt cover, check out Third Space Gaming, which is your friendly local game store in Burnley. If you want 10% off your first order, go to their website, type in the offer code DMBC into checkout and get 10% off your first order. I'm sure they will be doing the pre-order for Dragonlance, but you can get terrain, dice, RPGs. Check that out. That's DMBC. For Third Space Gaming.
All that stuff that you can buy there. So much
stuff. Dragons, space.
Oh dear. Well, it's been one heck of a week for D&D, and I think what we need to do to this week is see it on the flip side.
See it on the flip side. What a yes. So until next time, everyone, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy and I hope you're excited for the releases coming out. We certainly are. We love reading this stuff. We love this stuff. So please let us know what you think. Any predictions as well, that'd be really cool. But yes, until next time, folks, see you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side. Take care.
Bye. They always add one to things, don't they? That's a terrible cunning. But so they're not only
Xbox One.
Yeah, Xbox One, and that's it.
PS1.
PS1. There you go. They